All right, we're here with Jonathan Hayes, co-offensive coordinator of the Arlington Renegades. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the program.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark.
And then, so I always ask my guests, the first question I always ask is, give us your superhero origin story. How did you get from high school kid all the way to coaching in the NFL and now coaching in the XFL?
It was a long road. Of course, I went to University of Iowa, played there for legendary coach Hayden Fry. From there, I played in the NFL for 12 years. Played for two legendary coaches in the NFL, and Bill Cowher and Marty Schottenheimer. And then after I retired from playing, Bob Stoops and I had stayed in touch. We were teammates at Iowa, and we always stayed in touch. He'd come to town when he would recruit, and we'd go out and get dinner or have a drink or something, or I'd have him over to Arrowhead for practice so he could watch practice because he's a young coach trying to learn his trade. And so we always stayed in touch. And then when I retired, he had an opportunity to go coach at University of, Oklahoma. And once he got that opportunity, he asked me if I'd like to be on his first staff. And I said I'd love the opportunity. And that's how I ended up there for 4 years. And fortunately for us, in our second year at Oklahoma, we won a national championship. Then Marvin Lewis got an opportunity to become a head coach at Cincinnati Bengals, and Marvin and I grew up together. We knew each other. When I was playing for the Steelers, he was the linebacker coach, and he saw how I worked with younger players, always trying to teach them and help them learn the system and that. And so he asked me if I come join him at Cincinnati. And at the time, Cincinnati had been struggling quite a bit. When we got there, they were 2-14. Our first year there, we went 8-8. Our second year, we went 8-8, and then the third year, I want to say we went like 13-3 or something to that effect, with Carson Palmer as our quarterback, and he got hurt in a playoff game, and the Steelers end up table going to a Super Bowl. But within the time we were there, we were able to go to, I want to say it was 7 playoff appearances. Unfortunately, we didn't win one, but I think, we played a big role in setting the foundation for where they are now. And, Marvin, being from the outside, never had been working for Cincinnati, he showed them that there's different ways, other ways that you can do things to be successful. So then from there, when Zach came in, I was not retained, and I got a great opportunity. Jim Haslett asked me if I wanted to go be his offensive coordinator at St. Louis. And then Jim had to have surgery. And so Jim pushed me to Oliver and said, you really need to interview this guy. I need to talk to him because he would be great. And what if it wasn't for Jim Haslett and Oliver Luck believing in what Jim was telling them, I never would have got to sit down and interview for a job. And it took, it's unlike today where, these guys rise to stardom quickly as coaches. Also, I had paid my dues. I had gone through, I was Bobby's special teams coordinator in college, and helped put a lot of the game plan together all the time when I was there, and same in Cincinnati. And Marvin would teach us, and I had college interviews to be head coaches when I was with him. But, Marvin really taught us how he put it all together. And And so, you know, I was fortunate enough, and we had a great sit down meal, Oliver and my wife and I. And when we got up from the meal, Oliver said, "It's your job that if you want it." And so I went home, talked with Chris, and it was a great experience for us. I had a lot of great coaches around me because, fortunately for me, I had my brother Jay, who was our co-defense coordinator with Tim Lewis, who had also been Jay had been a coordinator in the NFL and in college special teams, and Timmy had been a defense coordinator for the Steelers, and then I had Chuck Long, who had been an offensive coordinator for with me at Oklahoma, and then he became a head coach, and Timmy had been a head coach, and then I had Rick Minter on our staff, and he had been a head coach, and you know, we had a great bunch of guys that really got it. Brian Braswell, who's now at Maryland, the offensive line coach, I asked him to come with us. He and I worked together at Cincinnati, and Reggie Davis, who'd been in the NFL and been in college, had coached all over the place. And I mean, I can go on, but we had a great group of coaches. And so it also helped to have those guys in the room when, you know, I needed a question answered, or how would you go about it? What did you think on how to do those things? And it really helped me to be able to bounce it off guys that had done it. And so, and probably the most important part of all that is, you know, you got to listen to the experience that's in the room. So that's how then the league folded because of COVID. And now here we are starting, I guess, I don't know if they're calling it 3.0 or what, but
that's, yeah.
Bobby asked me after they found out they weren't going to bring me back to St. Louis. He said, "Hey, you did such a great job in 2.0. You guys put it on us pretty good. And you guys were doing, and the ideas you've shown that I'd love to have you as my coordinator." So I was happy to come and get some of the band back together.
So how many coaches from the St. Louis Battlehawks moved with you to, I mean, you mentioned a lot of names that are already there now in Arlington. I mean, your brother being one of them.
So Tim Lewis, my brother Jay, Chuck Long, Reggie Davis, and Michael George. So there's 6 of us.
Well, that's, I mean, that's, you know, for Bob Stoops to ask you all guys, clearly he was impressed what he saw for the XFL.
Yeah.
So going back to your history with the Cincinnati Bengals, like, what's your take on their run here with Joe Burrow and all the success that I mean, they were close again to get to the Super Bowl this past weekend.
They've done a really good job in the draft and in free agency, spending the money wisely, but spending money in free agency where in the past you didn't see that as much. So getting pass rushers and D linemen, when you can do that in free agency, it helps, because then you can go into the draft and know you're in a good situation. They tried to rectify some of their woes with their offensive line, and they did get better. It was too bad that they got so many guys hurt at the end of the season. But you can see, but probably the key component, not probably, I know the key component is Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
You have a #1 overall draft pick, and he matches the billing that why you took him at that pick. You know, you're going to have success. And the other thing that people forget, you know, Joe was older when he came into the draft. He wasn't, you know, he had, I want to say he was 24 when he got drafted. So he's a mature guy. He gets it. He doesn't get rattled. He doesn't let the highs get too high. He doesn't let the lows get too low. He does a great job of managing his own emotions. And I think when his team sees that, then they realize, hey, we got this. They stay calm, they stay within themselves, but he also brings them to another level. He gets them to play even better than they probably thought they could play. And that's what a great leader does. I was fortunate enough to play with Joe Montana, and he did the same thing. He made you, whether he did it consciously or subconsciously, you just wanted to play it at a higher level. They're talking about Tom Brady today after he's retired, and then it's the same thing when you go and work with people like that, and you can play with guys like that. You you automatically raise your level of play so that you're not letting them down, or there's not a misnomer thinking that you don't fit here.
So speaking of quarterbacks, let's move back into the Arlington Renegades now. Kevin Anderson, Drew Plitt, Kyle Sloter. How is your take on the quarterback room for the Arlington Renegades?
I like this bunch of guys. They're very competitive. They play hard. They have a great understanding of the game. They're all very cerebral. You like that in a quarterback. They have a great understanding. Kyle has played a lot of football. So has Kevin. Drew's just been out a year, so this will be his first year of a pro season. He was in camp with the Bengals. I knew Drew when he was a young kid. His sister and my daughter, they played basketball and volleyball together at Loveland High there in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I have known their family for a while. And then he went on to Ball State, and he did good things there. And then the Bengals brought him down. They have the local pro day where they work the kids out from the local areas. And Trey Brown, who was my player personnel director at St. Louis, is now with the Bengals. And he's when they let Drew go, he said, Jonathan, you really need to look at this kid. He's going to be a hell of a player. And so I reached out to him. We were talking, and I talked with Bob, and then I talked with Rick, and that's how we worked hard to get Drew into the fold. And we got Kyle, and then we got Kevin, and so they have a good chemistry with each other. They're very competitive guys, and that's good for the room. But even though they're competing for the same spot, they understand that, hey, we got to work together so that we can all be great. So I really enjoy that. I enjoy their camaraderie between each other, but I enjoy how competitive they are with one another. And see them down there doing special teams during the barrel throw, where they're trying to throw balls into the garbage can, and it gets pretty heated. So that's fun to watch, and it's good to see.
Did you watch Kyle Sloter and Sal Cannella play in the USFL? Did you watch any of those games?
Yes, I did. I watched them on tape once we start looking at the guys and seeing who we were going to try to draft and all those things. Yes, I did watch them.
I mean, was that from watching those tapes? Because a lot of fans, when they saw, Kyle being drafted, and they were like, well, him and Sal had a great connection going into the USFL. I mean, was that on your radar? Like, hey, we need to grab Sal as well?
I think we just liked how Sal played. And I think along with some other people, we knew what a good player he was, and we just wanted to make sure if we had an opportunity that we could get him.
So what about some things? So how does the co-offensive coordinator work? Like, is somebody calling the plays? Is other person coaching? Like, how does that all work?
We all put it together. We all have a hand in it. I'll be calling the plays, but Chuck and I have worked together for so long at different places. One at Oklahoma, then in St. Louis. We've been friends. I'm godfather to one of his children. He's godfather to one of my children. We know each other. We're brothers, just brothers from another mother. So we have a great rapport with one another. And there's no egos here. We're not worried about all that. We just want to make sure we put together an offense that our guys can go out and execute and feel good about, and make sure it's something that gives them a chance to compete to win. And so, like I said, everyone has a hand in it. Everyone has input. Everyone has been in different. I've been in a bunch of different offenses as a player and as a coach, and so is Chuck, and so is Jonathan Heimbach, our offensive line coach, who he does a great job. He worked for Chuck, so it's that sixth degree of connection or whatever.
Yeah.
And so all the guys on the offensive staff, I knew Scott Spurrier through his brother Steve, who I worked with at Oklahoma. So, all these guys, they understand that, hey, there's no egos here. We're here just to have a great time, to put together a good offense and let these guys have a chance possibly to get back into the next league if possible.
So one of the things I noticed about Arlington's draft was that, you kind of went to some veteran guys that have played in spring leagues before more than other teams. Was that a decision that was made early on when you guys were drafting?
No, I think it's probably more just being familiar with people that, and that they would understand the system and be able to bring them in and get them up to speed quickly. And, we have Brian Folkers, who's with us in St. Louis. Brian was also with Jonathan Heimbach in the AAF. And then, different guys. Keith Ford was with us in St. Louis. Smitty was with Jaime down in the AAF. So all these guys, there's a lot of them. Yeah, we've had associations with before. And when you work with people and you see how they work, it allows you to know, well, as long as you're being honest with yourself and realize, okay, is he still got some tread on the tire? Can he go play and for this amount of games? Sure, why not?
So what about who are some players that are standing out to you in camp right now on the offensive and defensive side of the ball that fans should kind of keep an eye on?
Well, I think it'll be interesting for them to watch our quarterback race. Obviously, I think our running backs, we got some really good running backs. It'd be fun to watch how it all unfolds with the tight ends and then watching the receivers. We're still waiting for one guy to really take hold and really be the number one receiver. And we were hoping for this the little game we were supposed to play for ESPN so they could get their teams together and be able to telecast and all those things. But I don't know if I'm sure you're aware of the one that hit Dallas, and
yes,
and it's a winter wonderland here. But so that got delayed, and we don't know when that'll be rescheduled. So, but the guys are prepared, and they've had a good 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks of work, and things are coming along, and it'll be fun to watch as it unfolds. And the defenses looked really well, and they've given us a lot of good looks. So we're getting ready to go play. The week after the Super Bowl, it's our first game, February 18th, and we're excited about that. And we're excited to go compete. And that's the thing, the thing that matters most to me. I want to watch guys compete, and our guys have been competing very hard, and they're doing a good job. And so, we'll see. We're just trying to keep them healthy too, because not like the NFL where you get the big numbers through training camp. These guys that we got, most of them are going to have a chance to stick, and so we just got to keep them healthy so we can get them to the start line.
Yeah. So final question for you, Coach. You were here for the 2.0 era. Now you're here for the 3.0 era. You got Rock, Danny Garcia. I mean, what's your kind of, how do you feel things are going in the 3.0 era versus the 2.0 era?
Well, in the 2.0, we were in Houston, so the weather was much milder. Also, Oliver was the commissioner, and he had run a bunch of different leagues. He had been in NFL Europe. He had done the tennis league. He understood all the things that go into making sure when things happen, weather, whatever that is, that we already have a plan. I think this time some of the things are coming up on them they weren't expecting, but they've done a good job trying to handle it and trying to get through it. And I think that the one thing that this time you see is how important the marketing is, and they want to make sure that that's a big component. Not that it wasn't last time, but just it's really become a big component this time. You have Danny and Dwayne, and then Redbird Capital, the big money behind it, and Redbird, of course, has soccer teams and leagues and things like that. So they understand that part of it. They just haven't done a lot of American football. So things happen at a different rate, a different pace, and you just got to be like water. You got to be fluid and understand that things are going to happen. You're just going to have to change in midstream and just keep on going. So I think they've done an excellent job. The guys seem to enjoy it. A lot of them that have played in a bunch of different spring and summer leagues have nothing but good things to say about it. So I think that's a good thing. And the only difference for us too is once training camp was over, we all went to our respective cities. We'll see how it works, all practicing in the same city, and then you fly out a couple days before. And also you're flying out. This will be interesting to see how it goes when you're flying out with the other team on the plane.
Oh,
all those things that, you got to maneuver around. Hopefully it'll be fine and we'll just move forward.
Oh, great. Well, hopefully, Coach, the snow will melt and you guys can get back on the field. And appreciate you taking the time talking to us. And good luck on the season.
All right. Thanks, Mark.